In the opening scene, we see an ongoing interview featuring Andrew Kincaid, the CEO of a rapidly expanding video game company called Sentinel. During the interview, Andrew expresses his perspective on the Second Amendment, contending that gun ownership in the United States is an outdated and unsafe tradition. To tackle this issue, he proposes a unique solution by channeling violent tendencies into video games. He claims that if someone wants to shoot and kill people, they can play Sentinel's video game, or literally any other video game. Elsewhere, the chief security officer at Sentinel, named Orson Creed, watches the interview with his wife Abby. The interviewer questions Andrew about Orson's efforts to involve Sentinel in military contracts. Andrew mentions that the two of them have contrasting views. He also reveals that Orson has attempted to exploit his intellectual property many times. However, Andrew assures that he won't let this happen anymore. This causes Orson to get tense, but his wife comforts him by saying that she loves him because he is not like Andrew. Following this, the couple prepare to leave for somewhere when a group of armed forces break into their place and take Abby hostage. In a self-defense move, Orson tries to pull out a knife, but he is quickly knocked out. The scene then cuts to a delivery guy who delivers a package to a young man named Max. It appears that Max is a skilled video game champion who works as a beta tester for Sentinel. The delivered package contains the latest game, which Max is set to test. As he inserts the game into his computer, he receives a call from a female Sentinel tech support worker. Despite having never seen her in real life, Max seems to have developed strong feelings for her over years, evident by the fact that he regards her as Princess. Before diving into the game, Princess informs him that this game differs significantly from other open-world games, as it focuses on providing an authentic experience for gamers. Back at Orson's messed up house, the armed gangsters, led by Zane, are seen fixing a small device on Orson's neck. Once done, they activate it and leave the place with Abby. As Max starts the game, Orson simultaneously regains his consciousness. Max is initially perplexed as the game has no menus, no options, and no loading, unlike the other games. However, he disregards these oddities and tries to understand what is going on. He picks up a picture in the game featuring Orson and his wife, leading him to discover that his in-game character is none other than Orson himself. Max then explores the character's virtual home and stumbles upon a mobile phone in the kitchen. Upon playing a video on it, Zane, who is an NPC in the game, addresses him. Here, it is revealed that the events happening within the game are actually being reflected in the real world, and that the real Orson is being controlled by the device on his neck. Zane briefs Orson on a series of missions, giving him 90 minutes to complete each task. Failure to do so would result in Abby losing a part of her body for each uncompleted objective. His first mission is to sneak into the National Bank, which is about to be robbed, and retrieve the contents of safe deposit box 1121. Max is impressed by the realistic content of the game, unaware that it's actually synced to real life. Dude, they gave my avatar a dick. How progressive. He then stimulates Orson outside the house, gets into a car, and drives towards the bank. Meanwhile, breaking news on television reports the intrusion at the National Bank. However, Max is unfazed by the news, as he remains solely focused on the game. His in-game character arrives at the bank and infiltrates it without detection. Amidst the robbery, the controlled Orson crawls through the bank and comes across an employee. Max uses a button to communicate with the woman, directing his character to inquire about the key to safety deposit box 1121. In response, the lady directs him to her desk. Orson obtains the key and proceeds to the designated box. Just before unlocking it, Max experiences a loss of signal for a moment as Orson tries to remove the device on his neck. Nevertheless, the connection is re-established, allowing him to continue the game mission. Inside the safe deposit box, he discovers a gun and a note instructing him to kill the robbers and take the money. Princess warns him against harming the hostage, but Max dismisses her concerns, emphasizing that it is just a game. Following this, he takes down the robbers one after another and successfully retrieves the bags filled with money. He then loads them into the car and flees the scene. Once at a safe distance, Max decides to take a lunch break, but realizes that he can't pause the game, leaving him puzzled. Seeking clarification, he questions Princess, who offers to check on it. As Max heads to the kitchen, he notices breaking news about the recent National Bank robbery. Furthermore, he is shocked when he recognizes the same bank employee whom he bumped into in the game. This finally makes him realize that the events in the game are actually happening in real life. In a state of panic, he hastily attempts to call the police, but the 911 operator tells him to remain seated and continue playing the game. Max then tells Princess everything, but she also advises him to keep playing. Undeterred, he proceeds to turn off the game, but at the same time, Zane shows up on the screen. The gangster threatens him to cooperate, or else he will kill Princess and frame him for robbing the bank. At this point, Max learns that the money he stole in the game has been deposited into his real account, and that Zane's henchmen have now surrounded his house. Left with no choice, Max reluctantly continues playing the game. For his second mission, Zane instructs him to proceed to a nearby private school and protect the shooter who wants to carry out a massacre there. At this point, the writer thinks he's being topical, but he's actually tone deaf. At first, Max is reluctant to do this, but he is forced when Princess says that she doesn't want to die. He then stimulates Orson to the school and incapacitates the school guards, reluctantly letting the shooter kill the students. This brings tears to Max's eyes, but he is helpless. After this, Zane proceeds to assign him with the third mission, but at the same time, an idea strikes Max's head. He hangs up on Zane and dials his own phone number, ignoring Princess's objections. Max speaks to Orson and tells him about everything that's going on. On the other hand, Abby, whose face is disfigured by the earlier confrontation, is kept at Andrew's mansion. She is currently sitting at a dining table with Andrew. Through their conversation, we learn that they have a history together. Andrew asks if Orson knows about their relationship, to which she angrily responds that there was nothing between them. Just then, Zane walks in to alert Andrew about Max's action. However, the CEO doesn't seem to be much worried about it. Meanwhile, Max directs Orson to his home, neutralizes Zane's patrolling guards, and brings himself inside. The whole incident is instantly reflected in the game, and Max is now able to see himself. Realizing Orson cannot speak, Max implores Princess to unblock his speech frequency, which she reluctantly agrees to. Orson finally speaks up and tells Max that his house is bugged. Max initially doesn't believe him, so he shows all the hidden cameras and listening devices in his house that Andrew uses to keep an eye on him. He further reveals that he created every security protocol for Sentinel, including bugging. After debugging all of these devices, Max and Orson sit and talk about Sentinel. During this, Orson discloses that he was the one who created the technology that connects people to video game characters, which he refers to as Control X. Although he designed it for surveillance, he later realized that it was better suited for the military. According to Orson, Control X is about making stronger soldiers with fast reflexes and 2 sets of eyes. He created it with the intention of saving people, but Andrew is using it for his personal gain. In the course of their conversation, Max notices the device on his neck, and Orson asks him to remove it. However, Max appears to have something else in his mind, as he steps out of the house and drags one of the unconscious henchmen inside. Shortly after, he removes the device from Orson's neck and fits it on the henchman, which is still unknown to Andrew. Now that Orson is finally free, he heads to confront Andrew at Sentinel and save his wife. In the meantime, Andrew makes a video call with Max, issuing a threat to harm his girl if he refuses compliance. In order to demonstrate his power, Andrew goes as far as killing one of his female employees. Frightened, Max reluctantly agrees to comply with the instructions. He is then assigned with the third task, to approach and assassinate Caleb Angelo. It turns out that Caleb owns 51% of the world's largest server file, whereas Andrew only owns 40%. By eliminating Caleb, Andrew could easily acquire all the shares and seize control over the world. Feeling helpless, Max directs his in-game character to Caleb, intercepts his car in the middle of the road, and carries out the assassination. However, Andrew, who is observing all of this, becomes suspicious when Caleb fails to recognize Orson. On the other front, Orson arrives at Sentinel, only to be confronted by Zane and his henchmen. At first, he intends to be on good terms, but Zane's reckless behavior eventually makes him lose his temper. As a result of this, he starts fighting the guards and taking down everyone who comes in his way. Despite being a retired veteran, he has still got exceptional tactics in fighting, as he overpowers numbers of guards alone. He finally has a one-on-one battle with Zane and incapacitates him as well. Orson then makes his way to the top floor, where he finds Abby held hostage by one of the guards. Andrew issues a threat demanding Orson's surrender, or he'll face dire consequences. In addition, he also displays video footage of his henchmen holding Max at gunpoint. As they delve deeper in conversation, Andrew expresses his wish to control the world like a god. Orson asks for the reason why he killed the innocent school children, to which Andrew reveals that they are the casualties of war. That is so stupid. He claims that sometimes to make things better, one needs to start by making them worse. He also asserts that Orson could have been on his side, but he chose a different path. Orson argues that he has no right to control people, but the latter remains dismissive. Meanwhile, at home, Max, despite being under the threat of a gun, covertly stimulates his in-game character's home. Before the gunman suspects the anomaly, Max's controlled character breaks into the house and subdues him. Following this, Max gets in the car and drives towards Sentinel in order to help Orson. At Sentinel, Orson strategically signals his wife at the right moment, who then attacks the guard behind him and throws him off the roof. Simultaneously, Orson confronts Andrew in a physical brawl. The fight eventually gets intense when both of them grab swords and begin a sword fight. Andrew turns out to be good with swords, as he manages to strike Orson with several swings, injuring him. But before he can finish off our hero, Max shows up with a gun and shoots him dead. Swords don't have shit on guns. In the final scene, we see Max, who is now appointed as the new CEO of Sentinel, attending an interview in which he pledges to bring the company back on the right path. On the other hand, Orson, who is on a vacation with his wife, watches the interview with a smile on his face.